My name is Elena Cross, and this is not just a confession, it is a chronicle of how silence can shape lives, how vengeance can wear the mask of justice, and how sometimes, when the world refuses to hear your cries, you find yourself in a place where whispers carry the weight of death. People think of revenge as something loud, violent, and fiery. They imagine shouts, confrontations, blood staining the floor in heated rage. But real revenge, the kind that lasts, the kind that eats at your bones and then at theirs, is not fire. It is ice. And ice does not scream. It cracks quietly until the whole structure collapses. That is how I lived, and that is how I destroyed them. I was once ordinary. At least, I liked to pretend I was. Archivist at the local historical library, quiet girl, the one who blended into the background. People smiled politely at me, waved when they remembered my name, then forgot me as soon as they turned the corner. And maybe that suited me. But deep down, I had been carved hollow. You see, my family was shattered when I was 16. My father, a small contractor who believed that hard work was enough to survive in a world ruled by wolves, was crushed by the weight of corporate greed. A construction giant, led by a man named Victor Halloway, bankrupted him deliberately, cutting corners, bribing inspectors, and leaving my father to take the fall when a site collapsed. It killed 3 workers. It killed my father's soul. And 2 months later, he killed himself. My mother followed, not with a noose or pills, but by vanishing into silence, never waking up one morning as though her body gave up. I was left alone. 16, broken, and utterly invisible. For years, I carried that wound like a stone inside me. I thought I'd bury it under studies, under work, under the monotony of filing papers and organizing boxes of forgotten letters. I told myself I wasn't like him, that Victor Halloway was too powerful to touch, that men like him float above consequence like vultures circling over ruins. And yet, in the quiet corners of the library, I started collecting. Not books, not history, secrets. Contracts abandoned in dusty archives, memos leaked and forgotten, names scribbled in margins of scandalous letters no one dared to publish. I had a gift for noticing patterns, for piecing things together. My silence became sharper than words. I was invisible, and that made me dangerous. But my story isn't about Victor alone. It's about something darker, an underground covenant that no one believes exists, and yet, once you stumble into it, you cannot crawl back out. It's called the Silent Pact. It isn't a cult, nor a gang, nor an official society. It is an understanding, one as old as blood feuds but dressed in the cloak of modern shadows. Its members do not kill for themselves. They trade vengeance. If you want someone ruined, erased, destroyed, you don't strike. You give the task to another, and in exchange, you take their burden. That way, no one's revenge is ever traced to their hand. It is the purest form of silence, because it leaves no fingerprints of motive. I didn't discover the pact by choice. It found me. It was late, one winter night, when the snow made the library windows glow pale like bone. I had stayed after hours, sorting a box of unsorted donations. Inside, beneath brittle newspapers and photo albums, I found a letter without a stamp. Handwritten. Simple words, silence remembers. If you seek justice without chains, come to where the bell never rings. It felt like a riddle, one of those riddles you laugh at, thinking it's some student prank. But something about it dug under my skin. A week later, I found myself at an abandoned chapel outside town. Its bell tower was broken, the rope cut, the bell itself fallen and cracked in the dirt. A group of 6 people stood inside, faces half lit by candlelight. No names, no greetings. Just silence. And then, a voice, low, female, spoke, "What is broken here can be broken elsewhere. Welcome to the Silent Pact." They didn't ask why I came. They didn't ask my name. They only asked one question, "Do you carry a wound?" Yes. That night, I became part of them. I should have run. I should have laughed and called it madness. But I didn't. Because deep down, I had always longed for something exactly like this. For a system that allowed me to balance scales in a world where law and money were bedfellows. For a chance to silence men like Victor Halloway without blood directly on my hands. The rules were simple. You write down the name of the one you want erased, along with the nature of the punishment, death, ruin, exposure. You seal it in black paper. Then you pick one folded slip at random from the bowl. Whoever's inside becomes your burden. You carry it out, and someone else carries yours. No one speaks of their trade, no one refuses. To betray the pact is to sign your own erasure. The first name I ever drew wasn't Victor. Fate isn't that merciful. It was Harriet Vale. A professor. The request, ruin her, destroy her reputation. At first, my hands shook. I wasn't a killer. I wasn't even cruel, or so I thought. But rules were rules. Silence demanded silence. I studied Harriet for weeks. She was adored by students, polished on the outside, all shining smiles. But in shadows? She was cruel. She used students' work as her own, seduced a graduate assistant and then threatened him to keep quiet, siphoned research funds into her own account. She was already rotting. All I had to do was pull away the mask. Anonymous tips to journalists, planted evidence, leaked recordings. Within a month, her career was ash. She resigned in disgrace, her name whispered with disgust. I had done it. And to my surprise, I felt alive. Not guilty, not fearful. Alive. A week later, I learned the cost of my own request. Because the next obituary in the paper was not Harriet's, it was Victor's closest ally, his chief of operations. Found drowned in his own pool, police baffled. My request had been fulfilled by another hand. My silence had spoken, and it had been answered. Do you see the trap? Once you taste this, you cannot leave. I was no longer just Elena, archivist, invisible girl. I was Elena of the Pact. My life split in two, the quiet archivist by day, the silent executioner by night. And I told myself it was justice. Every name I touched deserved it. Every life toppled was guilty. But in truth, each step was leading me closer to the cliff. The names became darker. Politicians, tycoons, abusers whose power shielded them. I uncovered fraud, corruption, crimes buried beneath money. I grew skilled, meticulous, ruthless. And every time I delivered destruction, I would return to find another of my enemies slowly crumbling. My list shortened. My thirst grew. Silence was no longer just justice. It was addiction. But silence has a way of turning inward. The pact demanded more of me than I realized. Because one night, when the bowl was passed, I unfolded a name that froze my blood, Elena Cross. My own name. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a cruel joke. But the rules were unyielding. Someone had written me down. Which meant someone in that circle wanted me erased. I panicked. I searched every corner of my life, every interaction. Who hated me enough? Who envied me? Or worse, who feared what I was becoming? I didn't know. And I couldn't leave, because to refuse was already signing my death. For weeks, I lived in terror. Watching shadows, listening for footsteps, never knowing when the strike would come. And then, one morning, I found an envelope on my doorstep. Inside was a single photograph. My father, smiling, holding my hand as a child. And across it, in black ink, silence comes for everyone. That was the moment I understood. The pact wasn't just about vengeance. It was about balance. They didn't allow anyone to grow too powerful, too comfortable. And I had broken the rhythm by using them not just for justice, but for obsession. My vendetta against Victor had twisted into hunger. They wanted to remind me, no one escapes silence. So here I am, speaking into this recorder, not knowing how many hours I have before the knock at the door, before the candle is snuffed. I have carried out others' justice, I have asked for mine, and now I am both hunter and prey. Perhaps, when you hear this, I will already be gone. Perhaps, in some hidden archive, this tape will gather dust like the letters I once collected. But if you're listening, know this: revenge is never yours alone. It is a currency, and once you spend it, you become part of its debt. I thought silence was my ally. I thought it remembered for me. But silence remembers everyone. And tonight, it remembers me. So, if you walk past an abandoned chapel, if you see the broken bell, do not step inside. Do not answer the whisper that asks if you carry a wound. Because once you do, you'll find that your voice will never belong to you again. You will belong to silence. And silence always remembers.